Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Terry Fletcher.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Terry Fletcher. We are in week 8 of the WTF What the Football, and we have a lot to cover. So it was definitely an interesting bye that we had, and now that we're back, what happened? Well, Thursday Night Football for me, that was actually in Hawaii. As you know, I was on vacation last week, but football never stops. And so what happened? Well, it was Arizona-Green Bay. And it was a good game, actually. It was back and forth. You can tell these two teams are both on the top of their division. And the Packers versus the 7-0 Arizona Cardinals. But Green Bay actually won with the last play of the game. And it was unfortunate because it was a play that Arizona could have beat Green Bay. And what happened was that they were down in the end zone. Kyler Murray throws to A.J. Green, who wasn't even turning around for the ball. So some confusion there, which was weird because they had a timeout just before. And basically it was an interception. So the defender picked off the ball and Green Bay wins. It was the last play of the game, 24-21. Definitely a what the football moment because Kyler Murray just doesn't do that. So that was on the receiver and it was unfortunate. I mean, I like Green Bay, as much as anybody, but I really am rooting for Arizona because I think that quarterback is just a great thing going on. And let's face it, Aaron Rodgers is so arrogant sometimes. I only like him on Jeopardy. I'd take him out of football if I could. And everybody seems to want to always fall at his feet. And he tends to be an extremely arrogant football player. So for me, it's, what the football on that one. So let's talk about Steelers. Oh my goodness. So yes, now I'm back on stateside. And the Steelers definitely came to play. Our defense was absolutely on top of our game when we were playing the Browns this weekend. And a division opponent, a division rival. We also had Baker Mayfield, who apparently with his torn labrum in his shoulder and then also his fracture in his other shoulder, doesn't seem to worry their doctors that we've got some of the best pass rushers and edge rushers in the game, but they let him play anyway. Well, at halftime, we're at 3-3. So it was not a boring game, though. We had a lot of defense. They definitely had, when I say we, I mean Steelers. I know Joe hates when I say that, but they're our Steelers, right? When I say we, it's us. We're all in. But anyway, it was what the football on that trick play. So I'm sure you've heard this over and over again. I think Pat McAfee, if you've never heard his podcast show, you got to listen to it. He just tells it like it is, and he's usually drinking a beer when he's doing it. A little profanity mixed in, but he's amazing. But he's basically like, you killed him. You killed Boz, and he's a Steeler fan, so he was all in on what happened there. But we're at the 2-minute warning. We could have basically come ahead and been ahead going into the halftime, but apparently Coach Tomlin, who I adore, but he decides we're going to run a trick play, and it's a fake punt with Chris Boswell, and he actually had to roll out because it doesn't look like there's anything there. And again, we could have gone up 6-3. But he tries to throw it into the end zone, the back right corner. Now he becomes a receiver, and for some reason, the officials they stink more than ever. This is the worst officiating game I think I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot of bad ones. But they don't realize that even though he is a kicker, when he switched to being a passer, he now gets the same protections as any quarterback. And as a passer, he takes a helmet-to-helmet hit. His nose gets bloody. He gets pretty much knocked down on the ground where they have to come out. And they don't even call it. They don't throw a flag. They don't do anything. He's in concussion protocol right now. And so we then ended up taking a knee with 45 seconds left because we don't have a kicker. So even if we get close to get another little bit because it went back to the other team, and then we tried that, it was just a stupid call. Now, did Mike Tomlin take responsibility and say, yes, this was a bad call and it was, my call? Yes, but he also said something to the effect that it wasn't executed right. There was a late snap. Maybe, but it was just stupid, especially at the time. And we don't have a backup kicker. I don't know if you realize this, but a punter is not a kicker. A punter is a punter. So they don't make accurate kicks through 2 bars. They don't do the field goals. They don't do the extra points. And on kickoffs, remember, you're not getting it passed to you. You're kicking it off a tee. So that's a completely different style of kick. And when they did try to use Pressley, our rookie punter, in there, he did not do well. He kicked it out of bounds. That's just not who he is. And so that was just a really bad decision during the game, and a really what the football just the whole time. I mean, talk about screaming at the TV. Then refs were picking up yellow penalties all game long against us when there was personal fouls against our players. So it was just meaning that against the Browns, but on our players. So they just were like, no, you know what, your players can handle it, and they just kept picking them up, and it was a really interesting game when it came to the penalties. Again, I think we had 17 they called. I could not believe every play seemed to have a penalty. So total in that game was ridiculous. But with Mayfield playing, with Watt all over him, Hayward was all over him, it was just crazy. We ended up winning, and it was an ugly win, but we'll take it, 15-10, without a kicker, and our defense really just stopping everything. And the refs were doing everything they could to give the game to Cleveland. And at some point, the NFL officiating has to step up, because this is just wrong. This is costing people jobs. It is just bad. But Ben was asked in his post-presser about kicking it with our punter in the second half. And he basically was a little more clear than Tomlin was in his post-presser. He said, well, we just found out that he never kicked a field goal. So at the halftime, he said, we didn't know that, and so now we know. And Ben said something really funny, that talk about a WTF moment. He said, by the way, I'm the backup emergency holder, and I'm right-handed. So if Pressley misses, no. So, yeah, no, that is not going to work for anybody. And so Ben now is a 50-game winner in Ohio. He's 24-2 against Cleveland. So can we stop saying this is a rivalry when you only have 2 games against your opponent that you've won in 18 years that Ben's been playing against them? It's not a rivalry. Basically, you know what? Come to daddy. He's dad. And you guys are basically like, okay, can you just let us win this game? Yeah, no. So unfortunately, one of the games we did lose was a playoff game last year, but this was definitely kind of a revenge game, if you will, but it was ridiculous. You could just see the frustration all over the place with this game. One thing that was good is that in the Tuesday, Tomlin, he did say that there was no concern, or he did not have a concern on Boswell, who is still in concussion protocol, but he wouldn't say who the backup kicker is. But in alluding to what you think could happen, they also did not immediately, as a knee-jerk reaction, sign a kicker off the street. So that's a good sign that Boswell probably will play this weekend. So I'm hopeful for that. He's actually my kicker in all my fantasy leagues. So talk about getting alerts everywhere. But I did pick up a couple just in case. One thing that was helpful, so since the Steelers win and the Browns lose, the Browns will move down to last place. Bengals lost 34-31 after being up 11 points at halftime. But guess who they lost to? The Jets. Yes, they blew it. Mike White, their new rookie quarterback, also caught a 2-point conversion. So he had one of those Philly special that we saw in a Super Bowl with Nick Foles a couple of years ago against the Patriots. So it was definitely an interesting game on the highlights to watch. But now we have another AFC opponent that now has a loss. Now, Buffalo was interesting. The Buffalo-Miami game, let's look around the league. So that was 3-3 at halftime. So everybody started out slow this weekend. But the Bills ended up winning 26-11. We knew they'd pull it out. They definitely are an AFC contender. Now, for those of you that are not only fantasy players, but also follow all the games, and also respect other players that are playing well. I know I do. Even though I'm all in on Steelers, there's certain players out there that you just can't help but want to watch. And one of them is Tennessee running back Derrick Henry. Well, he has a fracture in his foot, so he is now out for the season. Luckily, I only have him in one of my leagues. But the Tennessee Titans actually signed, get this, Adrian Peterson, who is, 36 now? And that he's now going to be, I guess, one of their goal line backups. But they still beat the Colts 34-31 in a game-winning field goal after Wentz, who is kind of a bust right now in Indianapolis, he threw 2 more interceptions for the Colts. Yes, he did throw a couple of touchdowns, but his INTs are just incredible. This was not a good week for players. So Derrick Henry's out for the season, but New Orleans quarterback Winston is also out with an ACL and MCL involvement. He has a tear, plus he has MCL involvement as well. So enter backup Trevor Siemian, and he came in and won the game for them against Tampa Bay. So New Orleans pulled it out, and they beat Tom Brady in Tampa Bay. And so that was a division issue for them. So that's going to be interesting going forward if he's going to be their quarterback now with Winston out. And he was actually having a really decent season, so I kind of feel bad for him. So we'll see what happens there. Now, we also had a scratch with Dak Prescott in the Sunday night game, which was Dallas. And remember last year with Dak out the whole time and him, working his way back, him being out probably got him his big contract, because the fact that nobody could step up and fill his shoes. Well, last on Sunday night, Cooper Rush, who is their backup quarterback, and that's when they drafted, he ended up really doing well, and he beat the Vikings 2016. And actually, it was kind of a funny ending. Cooper Rush passed to Amari Cooper, for the win. So a Cooper to Cooper for the win there. So that was kind of a fun, what the football moment there. So let's move to Monday Night Football. Oh, my goodness. So the Chiefs come out swinging versus the New York Giants with an interception in the end zone. I just sit down to dinner and I'm like, here we go again. What the heck? So how many interceptions now is that for Patrick Mahomes? He has like 15 now. And this kid, he's just glaringly not protecting the ball. Between him and Lamar Jackson, they don't protect the ball. Now, do they pull out wins here and there? Are they rushing quite a bit? Yes. And people are ignoring the fact that neither one of them protect the ball anymore. They basically hold on to it, scramble around, and players are clubbing those balls out of their hands. And they're rushing too much. So it's just a really kind of, interesting phenomenon, just that nobody's catching that. And a big WTF for me. Now, after a very slow and another 13 penalty game, including a phantom face mask penalty against the Giants on third down, and they said that there was a face mask when the defender grabbed the tight end jersey, and Kelsey turned his head, but they didn't grab the face mask. They grabbed the jersey. And so that was unfortunate, because that sealed it for the Chiefs, because they gave them the 15-yard penalty, and all they had to do was to get up there and kick a field goal. And so they won 2017. Luckily for me, I did bet on the game. I took the under at 52 points, and also I took the Giants to win because the Chiefs were favored by 11.5. I never thought they were going to get that point spread. So I'll take my $55. Thank you very much. I don't know where they come up with those stats, because the Chiefs have not had any defense lately. So they're getting a ton of things scored against them. So a couple of things around the league. Seahawks snap a 3-game losing streak. Remember who they have. They have Geno Smith, and they won. Broncos snap a 3-game losing streak. Chicago, so we play them week 9 and on Monday Night Football, and they are 3-5. The Lions are 0-8, and we'll play them week 10. And the Chargers have lost 2 in a row. They're not having their best season, and we play them week 11. So God willing, could we be 6-3 soon? Well, it depends who comes out to play, but we hope that it's going to be this defense, and we're going to have our offense is getting better and better. I've noticed the offensive line is really doing well in protection. So one last thing, we have a trade deadline Tuesday this week at 4 p.m., Tuesday Eastern Time. We have a Steeler trade alert. Melvin Ingram to Kansas City for a 6th round pick in 2022. I was actually a little surprised, except the fact that there was some rumors that came out this week. I know Joe didn't believe it. He thought maybe just the media was making things up. But it was on Melvin Ingram, so one of our defenders, our edge rushers, and something that Tomlin said, a Tuesday Tomlinism. He said, quote, "It's good to have volunteers as opposed to hostages." So if you read between the lines on what that means, he's saying he wants people to want to play here in the role that they're assigned, not basically causing trouble or locker room pouting, saying that I need more play time. So he's like, all right, let's see what we can get for this guy and we'll move on. So Tomlin is definitely being aggressive when it comes to, I don't need that locker room nonsense. Cleveland came out and said they can't seem to get this. I'll just tell you why this is funny. They can't seem to get any trade offers for Odell Beckham Jr. Well, you know what? Try being a fantasy owner for Odell Beckham Jr. He's averaging 1.5 points a game. So in fantasy, if he sucks, of course he's going to suck in real life too. He made one catch years ago, and now they keep saying that he's this god wide receiver. He is not. So he drops balls. He's not always open. He just doesn't fight for it. So I'm thinking that they're going to just keep him until his contract expires. We'll see what happens. And he's always injured, by the way. And the surprise, though, was the Von Miller trade. He is a linebacker for the Denver Broncos, been there forever, was defensive player of the year one year. I mean, he's a star player, and he was traded to the Rams. So the Rams are definitely stacking their team, and we'll see what happens with them because they're in a tough division. They're in a division with Green Bay, and so that is a very tough division. So we'll see what happens there, both 7-1 teams. All right, everyone, that's the What the Football week for me. Until week 9, I hope everyone makes it a great day and a great week, and I'll talk to you next time on the Steel City Underground podcast.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.